Hey, welcome to this super exciting video where I am going to be swatching out, playing around with, and really exploring a brand new palette. This is the Essential set by Szmal, and not only have they curated this palette, they have also used it as an opportunity to release 3 brand new colors that aren't available anywhere else yet. Szmal were kind enough to not only gift me one set, but to give me another one that I can give away to one of my art members. So be sure to check out the description for all the details on how to join if you want to get your hands on this very special set. For everybody else, I will also leave a link down below for where you can buy the set once it becomes available. A super special thank you to Szmal and also to all my art members for making this video possible. Those of you who've been here for a long time will know that I have absolutely loved Szmal watercolors for years, and I am just so excited that not only do I get to explore this palette, but also that they just keep creating new and exciting colors. I think that Szmal watercolors were underrated for a really long time, and now they finally kind of, got their due. This is from a video where I highlight the top 30 colors as picked by myself and also by viewers. These are the colors that were actually released last year, and that's one of the beauties about Szmal. As you can see, there's extra swatches here, but that's one of the beauties, like the line is still evolving, like even this year there's I think 20 new colors that are coming, of which 3 we're going to swatch out here. This is from the Jane Blundell set last year, and then these are just some extra swatches just so that you can see how varied and broad and beautiful this range of watercolors truly is. And this isn't sponsored. I've just really loved them for a very long time, and they were kind enough to send me this palette. I believe that this is the first one that they've done that's not like an artist-led one. So they have quite a few, they collaborate with a lot of artists, but this is their first home palette, if you will. Oh, beautiful. So with no further ado, let's start swatching. I was organized this time, as you can see. I feel like I'm building up so much anticipation, but the new colors I have starred out here. So Nickel Azo Gold is one of the new colors, Quin Magenta Intense, Mineral Pink. So these are the new colors that are included, and initially I wasn't sure if Nickel Azo Gold was one of the new ones, and that is because there is Quin Gold, which has been discontinued and is one of my favorite colors, and that's number 310, and it has PY150 and PO48, which is the pigment that was discontinued, hence why they made Quin Gold Hue, which is PY150 and PR102, which is basically the same same pigment as Nickel Azo Gold. But I've checked, this is actually 260 and this is different, so it will be nice to take a bit of a closer look. But yeah, as you can see, it's kind of like another addition for those who love Quin Gold. Now, one of the things that comes to mind that I noticed on the back is just to be mindful that although it has the pigment numbers, which is awesome, the box itself doesn't come with like the light fast ratings, the staining, the granulating properties, etc, etc. All of that actually comes in the little brochures that are available online by Szmal. So if you are if that's something that's really important to you and you want to make a note of it, then again, that's not something that's here, but it's something that you can find online, and I will also be sharing it during this video. And I feel like that's it for the most part. It comes in this lovely packaging, as well as this super cute tin, which is standard for them. It also has a swatch sheet that has the information on here so that you don't have to write it out, which again is always handy and helpful. And it comes with 28 4 pans, which are here, and the beautiful colors already unwrapped. If you are a watercolor lover, gouache lover, mixed media, sketchbook, art supply enthusiast, then I have created a free community that I will leave linked down below in the description. On there I will share pictures of the swatches so that you can take a closer look, but also it's a lovely way for us to extend and continue this wonderful community that we've created here on YouTube. In this video, I'm going to be swatching these beautiful colors. I'm going to be highlighting their pigments, their properties, because I want to provide as much information as possible. That being said, You by no means need to know absolutely all of it in order to enjoy this palette. If you just love pretty colours, I think that's pretty much good enough, and that is certainly how I started, and it's certainly how I initially fell in love with these watercolours. I am going to be swatching this on some Saunders 100% cotton watercolour paper, and one of the beauties about Roman Szmal, which you can hopefully see here, is that they just reactivate so easily and so beautifully and so nicely. Sometimes that means that the pans can be a little bit sticky if you buy them individually, but if that's the case, then I normally recommend popping them in the fridge or in the freezer for a few minutes, like 2 minutes. They won't be sticky anymore, but they will still reactivate beautifully. So this is Buff Titanium, which is PW6:1, an oldie but a goodie. It is 8 out of 8 light fastness. It's medium, granulating, semi-opaque, and a lovely handy colour. I hope that by now it goes without saying. However, if as you're watching this you have questions or thoughts or you want to chat about it, then feel free to leave a comment down below. I love continuing our conversations and answering questions, and I could talk about watercolours all day. So feel free to just leave me a comment down below and we can chat. This next colour that we have is Hansa Yellow Light, which is PY3. Beautiful. It's quite a common colour to have in most sets. I find it's kind of like, you know, your middle of the road coolish yellow. So it's nice to have here, and quite often is, you know, the yellow that you would see or expect in a split primary. We can judge by the name that these colours are what, you know, are deemed to be the essentials, but one of the things that's quite interesting is that it's not a boring palette. You know, it's not just the split primaries, it's not got, you know, black, white, those like slightly, those colors that I tend to find less exciting basically. It's got, yes, the essentials, but also colors that are interesting, that are intriguing. A beautiful palette. This color here is Hansa Yellow Medium, which is PY74. Is 7 out of 8 light fastness. It's medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. And again, a nice warm yellow that needs a little bit more orange. Then next we have Gold Ochre, which is PY43. It is 8 out of 8 light fastness. It's medium staining, medium granulating, and semi-transparent. It's a really pretty colour. It's not, in honesty, I'm not always leaning towards earth tones. Recently, my members and I created an autumn palette, and in it there were some earth tones, and it did make me appreciate just the beauty of some different colours, of which we will be exploring some of them a little bit later as well, because I discovered a new favourite red. Ooh. This is the new colour, which is Nickel Azo Gold, and it is beautiful. So I'm a sucker for Nickel Azo Yellow, which is PY150, and that's the like bright yellowy colour that you see poking through. This colour, interestingly, granulates quite a bit. Don't know if you are seeing it, because I was kind of curious to know what the key difference would be between this and the existing Quin Gold hue. But I feel like one of the striking differences at the moment is just how much it granulates, and it's granulating a lot. I'm just going to lift that so that we can see that Nickel Azo yellow poking through underneath. Then next, so that is a lovely colour, and I love all colours that resemble, feel like, look like Quin Gold and Nickel Azo Yellow, so that is a win in my book. Then we have Transparent Mummy Red, which is PR102. It is 8 out of 8 light fastness. It is non-staining, medium granulating, and semi-transparent. I must admit, I'm surprised. I kind of thought, I guess I completely ignored the name, and I thought that it would be more opaque, but it's actually semi-transparent, and to me it's a little bit more, or like, I wouldn't necessarily call this a red, I would call it more like I would call it more like an orange. A pretty rustic orange. I really like that. It almost reminds me of like a burnt sienna, and next is burnt sienna, so we'll see how they compare. One of the things that I also noticed about this set is that 16 of the colours are actually in the Jane Blundell set as well. So that does mean that there are 12 colours that are not, but it perhaps means that if you have this set, you don't need the Jane Blundell set. And you can just get those extra colours if you like. This is Blue Ridge Burnt Sienna, which is PBR7. So it's slightly warmer and darker than the Mummy Transparent Red that we were looking at. It is 8 out of 8 light fastness. It's non-staining, medium granulating, and semi-opaque. Beautiful. Okay, so you can see the similarity between the two. Only that this one is less orange, if you will. I feel like burnt sienna is such an underrated colour, as well as like ultramarine blue. Although I feel like ultramarine blue gets more recognition and more love than burnt sienna. And the two mixed together make some really lovely neutrals. And I just like seeing them side by side as well. So next we have Pyrrole Scarlet, which is PR255. It is 8 out of 8 light fastness, high staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. It's so funny because I love the look of reds, and I never really know how to incorporate them in my art. I have been adding them to a few of my landscapes recently, and that has been working well. Whoops, I touched the edge. But this is lovely. One of the things that I also enjoy about reds is that I feel like my perception of them is always relative. So this to me looks like a beautiful lipstick red, and I'm sure that as soon as I start swatching the other colours, it will put it into perspective. And then next we have Aquarius Orange, do we? Indeed we do. My hesitation comes from the fact that it looks darker it looks red in the pan. But yeah, when you reactivate it, it is orange. Beautiful. Bright. It doesn't have any pigment information as of yet. It's one of Roman Szmal's unique colours. A lovely granulating orange, which I feel doesn't happen often. It is medium staining, medium granulating, and semi-transparent, like a pretty pumpkin orange. And then next we have Quin Red, which is 8 out of 8 light fastness. It's staining, non-granulating, and transparent. I love quinacridones for all those properties because I tend to love really bright, punchy colours, and I also love that they are transparent, so you can layer them, and I feel like you can get more effects. I'm not hating on opaque colours, but I definitely do prefer transparent ones, and that is beautiful. It looks very pinky. So at present it is our cool red in the set, although it looks like a pink. And as I said, it's PV19. And then we have a new favourite of mine that I didn't really anticipate, but I'm glad to have fallen in love with. And this is Pyrrole Rubin, which is PR264. It is a beautiful, beautiful red. It's 8 out of 8 light fastness. It's non-granulating. It is staining, and it is semi-transparent. I just love how like moody it is. It makes beautiful purples. It makes lovely oranges. It's beautiful on its own. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a new favourite red. I never thought it would happen, but it is absolutely stunning. And it is also a red that I have been adding quite a lot to my recent autumn landscapes. So the colours that you've been seeing have been this Pyrrole Ruben, which is PR264. Next, we have one of the new colours, which is, let me make sure I get the right one. It is Quin Magenta Intense. Wow. I mean, they weren't lying, it is intense. Beautiful and bright. Quin Magenta is in the Urban Sketching palette, and initially I was like, oh, why would they put such a bright a bright pink color in an Urban Sketching palette? But it is just so useful and so pretty, and it's kind of made that palette a versatile palette for me in general, where I can use it for everything. Then next we have another new color, and this is Mineral Pink, which is PB29 and PR122, and it is beautiful. Look at that. That is just so nice. And I mean, I know we don't have the, you know, granulating, staining, blah, blah, but we can see that it is beautifully granulating. My money is on the fact that it's probably going to be staining because of that PR122 that's in there. And we'll see how opaque it is once it dries. But that is really pretty. That being said, let's reserve our opinions. Why? Because granulating colours just change so much that I feel like you can't fully judge them until they dry. I'm just going to pick up a little bit so that we can see. And then this whole palette so far, I mean, oh gosh. This is Indian Red, which is PR101. It is 8 out of 8 light fastness. It's medium staining, granulating, and opaque. Doesn't look massively, like, okay, I was gonna say it doesn't look opaque, but actually, as I'm laying it on, my doodle has completely disappeared. And this is maybe a color that I don't use it very much, not gonna lie to you. I've already said I kind of tend to use more transparent, semi-transparent, or even semi-opaque kind of colors. Look, doesn't that look so nice in the pan? Cobalt Sea Blue PB28. Stunning. I want to be sure not to touch the red. It is 8 out of 8 light fastness, medium staining, granulating, and semi-opaque. It's just a really beautiful color. Like a lovely, I know it's called sea blue, but I feel like it's also a beautiful sky blue. That's lovely. There's really like a good range of good quality pigments in this. Look at how that activates. This is another one. So this is Lavender, which is PW6, PB29, and PV16. It is 8 out of 8 light fastness, non-staining, non-granulating, and opaque. This is a color that I'm not gonna lie, I don't use often. Like, I hardly use it. However, I have seen so many people use it, recommend it, swear by it, that I am going to try incorporating it in my art and just see. I saw like Tom Shepherd using it, and he used it in such a beautiful way. I don't think it was the Roma Szmal one, but just lavender as a whole. So I was like, you know what, let me just explore this color, because so many artists love it and swear by it. I need to see why. Now it says that it's not granulating, but it feels like it's granulating, or like maybe the white has separated from it. So let's see how that dries. And you can see it in the palette actually, that there's like a film or a layer of white, which I don't think should be happening. So let's see how that dries, and then we'll have a better idea as to what is going on. Next we have Cobalt Cerulean Blue, which is PB36. It is 8 out of 8 light fastness, medium staining, granulating, and semi-opaque. I feel like every color so far that we've gone, I've been like, oh, I love blues, oh, I love yellows, oh, I love pinks, reds. But I feel like if you look at my art, you can see that I do love a range of different colors, and I am drawn to a range of different colors. This looks like a middle of the road blue, you know, it's going to granulate, it's going to stain a little bit, but I feel like I tend to prefer ultramarine to cobalt blue, Don't know why. I guess I prefer that ultramarine is a little bit warmer, a little bit deeper, because I also like love Indanthrone blue, for example. So those are the colors that I tend to be drawn to a bit more in my, if I were to pick a split primary, if you will. Next, we have a favorite amongst many, and that is Misty Morning PG50 and PV19. It is 7 out of 8 light fastness. It is medium staining, granulating, and semi-transparent. This is the definition of a color, like don't judge it until it is dry, because it changes a lot and you can't really see its full potential. One, until it's dry, but also when it's, you see more when it's like lighter and watered down a bit. And then it stays true to its name of being looking like a misty morning. I think one of the things that I'm enjoying about this set, like I have mentioned, is the fact that yes, there's the split primaries, so the essential colours, but then also there's so many fun colours. This is Phthalo Blue Green shade, which is PB15. Super bright electric blue. It's quite common in sets, to be fair. 8 out of 8 light fastness. It is highly staining, non-granulating, and transparent. Just do another swatch. Then we have Ultramarine Intense, which is PB29. It is 8 out of 8 light fastness. It is granulating, and this is one of my go-to blues, as well as Indanthrone blue, which isn't in this set. Just love it for its granulation. I love the way that it makes really pretty purples and lovely shadows. I love the way that it works with burnt sienna as well. Then next we have Cypress Burnt Umber Deep, PBR7. Lovely. So initially when I was saying, you know, that Indian red isn't my go-to, I was thinking that burnt umber is one of my go-tos, especially for landscapes and for mixes. It is 8 out of 8 light fastness. It says it's staining, which I'm surprised by. PBR7 staining, weird. I'll double check it. Medium granulating and semi-transparent. I feel like PBR7 usually isn't staining. Yeah, but that's what it says. It just means that when it dries, if you try to reactivate it and pick it up, it will stain the paper. Then, let's get, oh, can you see how that's changing? Beautiful. Let's go to one of my other favorites, which is Autumn Green. It is a color unique to Roman Szmal. It's made up of PG26, PY150 and PR122. It is 8 out of 8 light fastness. It is medium staining, granulating and semi-transparent. This is a color that just granulates in such a stunning way, such a unique way, and such a way, it's like, it perplexes me, right? How do all these colors come through and just not create mud? That's what I don't understand, but that's what I love about this color. So again, another one to just keep an eye on as it dries. Don't make any judgments until it's dry, okay? Then next we have Sap Green, which is PY150 and PG7. It is 8 out of 8 light fastness, staining, non-granulating and transparent. This, not gonna lie, is not what I think of when I think of a Sap Green. I love many greens by Roman Szmal, and although I think this is a pretty green, it's not one that I reach for very often, and that's just because of that PG7 inside it. It just makes it, and I guess the PY150 is just a very bright, unnatural looking green. So it's definitely a green that you can use, or that I could use if I like mixed. I'd need to mix something inside it, you know, to turn it down a little bit, like even if it was a dash of magenta or something else. And also because there are so many other beautiful greens, It's not one that I reach for very often. My replacement for sap green or sap green light is usually Hooker's Green by Szmal. I feel like that's what I want from a sap green. So if I'm trying to get a sap green, that's the green that I get and I use. This is Phthalo Green, blue shade, which is PG7. It is 8 out of 8 light fastness, highly staining, non-granulating and transparent. This is such a beautiful colour. Not only that, it is such a useful, playful, interesting, incredible colour that I massively underrated until I randomly did this exercise where I was just swatching out lots of different mixes using PG7. And it's just, if you haven't tried it, my goodness, it's something that I highly recommend. It's a lot of fun. Mix it with magenta or with anything. It just makes really nice and interesting mixes. So although I'm like, oh yeah, sap green, I'm not really going to use it because it has PG7 inside it. PG7 on its own, massively useful colour. Then we have Aquarius Green, which is again another colour unique to Szmal. It's such a lovely, olivey, deep, granulating, pretty green. It is made up of PY150, PBR25 and PB29. It is 8 out of 8 light fastness. It is staining, it is granulating, it is semi-transparent, and it is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Again, another one to keep an eye on as it dries, because it just changes in such a beautiful way. And you see lots of lovely colours inside. If you're ever wondering like how to make colours granulate as much as possible, you can use raffia paper, you can add lots of water, you can let it dry on its own. Don't use like a heater or a heat gun or something like that. Just let it dry naturally. And then don't do what I'm doing here, which is like playing with it. Instead, like put it down and let it just do its thing and let it dry. And that is the way that you can get as much granulation as possible. This beautiful color is Shadow Violet, which is PG50, PB29 and PV19. It is 8 out of 8 light fastness. It is staining, it's granulating, it's semi-transparent, and again it's just a really pretty color that granulates in such a unique way, makes beautiful shadows, and is absolutely stunning, as is Shadow Violet Light, by the way. Both are absolutely beautiful. Dark, deep, purple leaning neutrals, I guess, as the name implies, like shadow violets. Then we have Aquarius Violet, which is such a unique color. It is made up of PB29, PV19 and PR255. It is one of the newer colors, so it was actually released in 2023, and it is lovely, very, very unique. I think initially it was going to be called Plum, and it's got that kind of plum vibe to it. It's 7 out of 8 light fastness. It is staining, granulating, and semi-transparent. And although it's technically a violet, as you can see, it's got like a really nice neutral vibe about it, like a nice complement to browns as well. And then, last but not least, we have Payne's Grey, which is PBK9, PB27 and PR264, and it's just beautiful. I love blue leaning Payne's Greys, so obviously I love this one. It's a lovely neutral, absolutely stunning. It's funny because, you know, before painting and stuff, I feel like I would be like, okay, a grey is a grey, like big deal. And then since painting and just falling in love with colours, that has completely changed. And I in fact have a video where I swatch out I think 11 of my Payne's Greys, and since then I have got even more Payne's Greys to just show you how much I love them. And also they are just so different. If you agree, let me know down below in the comments. This Payne's Grey, let me get the information for you, is 8 out of 8 light fastness. It is medium staining, non-granulating and semi-transparent. So here we have it. This is the Essential set by Roman Szmal. As you can see, the colours are just absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. I'm curious, are there any colours that are your go-tos that you feel you would add to this palette that perhaps aren't here? Let me know. One of the really cool things about this palette is that a lot of the colors that were in our top 30 video also have featured here, or similar colors to it have featured here. So it's almost as if they knew what colors were our favorites, and they curated them into this really lovely, unique essentials palette. So next, let's take a look not only at the palette but actually comparing some of the colors. So one of the key things that I'd mentioned was that there's Nickel Azure Gold, which is the color 380. It has pigment PY150 and PR102, and I wanted to compare that next to Quin Gold Hue, which has PR102 and PY150. And as you can see, both colors are absolutely beautiful, but there is like a nuance difference. I feel like the Nickel Azure Gold, so the newer color, granulates more. It has a deeper, darker, more orangey, browny mass tone, so when you lay it on thick, whereas the Quin Gold Hue has a little bit more of an orange glow. It doesn't granulate quite as much as the Nickel Azure Gold, but both are really lovely. So it's nice to see them side by side, because this is the color that I thought it actually was. And then we also have Quin Gold, which is also a hue, but it's just called Quin Gold by Roman Szmal, and this color has been discontinued, which is a shame because I really do like it. And it's PY150 and PO48, and the key difference between this is that this doesn't tend to granulate either, and I feel like it's in between the Nickel Azure Gold and the Quin Gold Hue. And then I also thought that I would swatch out Nickel Azure Yellow, which is PY150, just in case you want to see the bright yellow that's popping through, which I also love, to be honest, and I love using it for glazing and doing layers in my paintings. It's just a really beautiful color. Next we have Mineral Pink, which is one of the new colors, and it's a really beautiful pink that has a bluey purple color poking through. The first thing that I thought of comparing it with was Mineral Violet, because they have the same pigments of PB29 and PR122. They are very, very clearly different, but I thought that it would be nice to have them side by side, and it almost reminds me of a Rose of Ultramarine in terms of Mineral Pink does, whereas Mineral Violet reminds me of, I think, Imperial Violet. But yeah, beautiful complement. And then, so for this bit, I just want to compare the Quin Magenta Intense with the Quin Magenta, and both are really lovely. And there's a subtle nuanced difference. I don't know if you can see it, but I feel like I can, where the Quin Magenta Intense, yes, I think both, to be honest, are quite intense, but I feel like the Quin Magenta Intense is also a bit warmer, so it's a bit pinker, whereas the Quin Magenta is a little bit more blue leaning. Both are really lovely, and I feel like you can see the clear difference when you water it down as well. And then next, so I don't tend to do this, but I kind of got a bit curious and I wanted to see how do they move in water. I feel like, as you can probably tell with Roman Szmal watercolors, where you put them is where they'll stay, and it's something that I'd always thought but I'd never really tested. So here I'm just wet the whole page and I'm just doing tiny drops of paint here, there and everywhere to see how they move. And it's funny because the color that took me by surprise, that moved unlike any other color, there were two that struck me. The first one was Mineral Pink, like it's just shot across the page almost as you would expect Core to do. Really lovely. And then the other one was Misty Morning, which I didn't know it did that, but not to the extent of Mineral Pink, but both of them really did move across the page. Everything else was kind of like, you know, that gradual diffuse movement that you would expect from watercolor, but nothing drastically crazy. So the pro of that being that you then have control when you are painting with watercolor, because where you put it is where it's going to stay. But equally, sometimes it's fun to have watercolors that move and express and blend with each other. Heard a couple of artists mention using lavender in their artwork, and it did get me curious about using it. I must admit, this one didn't perform in the way that I would expect. It's kind of like, it's supposed to be non-granulating, opaque, flat wash. However, I do feel like it has some, I don't know if it's granulation, it has some texture, and I don't know if that's because the white pigment is separating from the other pigments, which you could see when we were reactivating it. So that's the one color that perhaps I am not that keen on in this set, and I want to try and explore perhaps a different lavender to know if that's normal or if that's atypical. I feel like swatching will give you insights, and doing lifting and all these fun exercises will give you insights about the paints. However, you won't truly know how they perform until you actually use them to paint. I am biased. I'm not gonna lie. I have loved Roman Szmal watercolors for a very long time, and so this time was no exception. But I did think that I would do a painting trying to incorporate as many of the colors as possible, so that you can see how they move, how they perform, and also try to not create mud. And I really like the painting in the end, so it did work out well. I do think in terms of looking at the set as I do this painting, I really do like the set. I think it has the beautiful unique colors that are known to Roman Szmal, such as the autumn green, the Aquarius green, the Aquarius violet, the Aquarius orange. So I think that is wonderful. I also am really excited by the fact that they've included new colors such as the mineral pink and the quin magenta intense. I think it also has the special colors like misty morning and shadow violet that again just make it a nice, cool, exciting, playful palette. But equally, they've included colors that allow you to develop your skills in terms of color mixing and just making your own colors if that's something that you're interested in as well. So I think it's just a beautifully curated palette. In terms of any colors that I would add, it's a tricky one. It's hard because I love so many of the Roman Szmal colors. The colors that I would love to add would be probably Hooker's green in place of the sap green, and then I also feel like I would add Roman Szmal's sky blue. Means I have to do next to no work when I create my skies. Then also Roman Szmal has this stunning color called ocean blue, which is just beautiful and very unique, granulates in a really lovely way. So that's another color that I think I would like because it is special. And then I would be tempted to add in Danthrone blue, but that's like a personal preference thing as opposed to like an essential thing. Another color that I was thinking about as a possibility was Shibish gray. Like, it's so beautiful and it's actually my go-to gray. That being said, as you can see from our top 30 swatches, it is quite similar to Shadow Violet and Shadow Violet Light. So I guess given that we have this, the Shadow Violet, it is reasonable that we don't have Shibish Grey. But honestly, all in all, I absolutely love this palette. I think that it is a wonderful curation of colours. If you are still watching, then you are a real MVP, and you already know that I really appreciate you, especially as this was a long and chatty video. I love the conversations that we carry on in the comments, so let me know that you are still watching by telling me what your favorite color was from this collection. If you've enjoyed this video, then you'll definitely love this series of next ones where I highlight even more colors and swatching and experiments and just dive deeper into watercolors. Super special thank you to Roman Szmal for sending me this lovely gift, and a super special thank you to all my members for making this video possible. Good luck to everyone on the giveaway. I will leave everything linked down below in the description, and I will see you next week. Bye.
Me wind and rain, you're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh.